May forces Brexit betrayal to its crisis point. The only words that were left out of Theresa May's announcement of achieving cabinet approval over her Brexit deal were mission accomplished. Theresa May was put in charge of the UK to betray Brexit from the beginning. She always represented the interests of the European Union and those in British Parliament that backed remaining in the EU. No one in British high society wanted Brexit to pass. No one. No one in Europe's power elite wanted Brexit to pass. No one. No one in the US's power elite wanted Brexit to pass. Not one. When it did pass, the Davos crowd began the immediate process of sabotaging it. The fear-mongering has done nothing but intensify, and May has done nothing but waffle back and forth, walking the political tightrope to remain in power while trying to sell EU slavery to both sides in British Parliament. We're 29 months later, and the UK is no closer to being out of the EU than the day of the vote. Why? Well, because Theresa May's 585-page deal is the worst of all possible outcomes. If it passes, it will leave the EU with near full control over British trade and tax policy, while the British people and government have no say or vote in the matter. It's punishment for the people getting uppity about their future and wanting something different than what has been planned for them. Mr. Juncker and his replacement will never have to suffer another one of Nigel Farage's vicious farragos detailing their venality ever again. YouTube will get a whole lot less interesting. It's almost like this whole charade was designed this way. Because it was. Theresa May has tried to run the clock out and scare everyone into accepting a deal that is worse than the situation pre-Brexit because somehow a terrible deal is better than no deal. But that's the opposite of the truth, and she knows it. She's always known it, but she's gone into these negotiations like the fragile wisp of a thing she truly is. There's a reason why I call her the Gypsum Lady, because she's simply the opposite of Margaret Thatcher, who always knew what the EU was about and fought to her last political breath to avoid the trap the UK is now caught in. The UK has had all the leverage in Brexit talks, but May has gone out of her way not to use any of it, while the feckless and evil vampires in Europe purposefully complicate issues which are the height of irrelevancy. She has caved on every issue to the point of further eroding what's left of British sovereignty. This deal leaves the UK at the mercy of like Latvia or Greece in negotiating any trade agreement with Canada. Because for a deal between member states to be approved, all members have to approve of it. So yeah, great job, Mrs. May. Mission accomplished. They're popping champagne corks in Brussels right now. But this is a Brexit people can be proud of. Mr. Orwell would be proud of Theresa May for this one. You people are leaving. Let the EU worry about controlling their borders, and if Ireland doesn't like the diktats coming from Brussels, they can decide for themselves if staying in the EU is worth their trouble. The entire Irish border issue is simply not May's problem to solve. Neither is the customs union or any of that other stuff. This is the EU's problem, and they are the ones who don't want the Brits to leave. Let them figure out how they're going to trade with the UK. It is so obvious that this entire Brexit negotiation is about protecting the European project as a proxy for the right of German automakers to export their cars at advantageous exchange rates to the UK at everyone else's expense. The same as it was in the days of the Iron Lady. If all of this wasn't so damn predictable, it would be comical. Because the only people more useless than Theresa May are the Tories who only care about keeping their current level perks of office. The biggest takeaway from this Brexit fiasco, however, is that even more people will check out of the political system. They will see it even more clearly for what it is, an irredeemable miasma of pelf and privilege that has zero interest in protecting the rights of its citizens or the value of their labor. It doesn't matter if it's voter fraud in the U.S. or a drawn-out betrayal of a binding referendum. There comes a point where those not at the political fringes look behind the veil and realize changing the nameplate above the door doesn't change policy. And once they realize that, confidence fails and systems collapse. Brexit was the last gasp of a dying empire to assert its national relevancy. Even if this deal is rejected by Parliament, the process has sown deep divisions which will lead to the next trap, and the next, and the next, and the next. And by then, Theresa May will be a distant memory, being properly rewarded by her masters for a job very well done.